It started with a knock on the door. Not hers. His. The kind of knock you don't forget, not because it was loud, but because of what followed. I remember the moment clearly, a half-finished cup of coffee, a late invoice open on my laptop, and silence in the house that I had long stopped finding comforting. Then the knock, and with it, the end of the illusion. It was Tom. My best friend since college. A man I once trusted more than my own judgment. He stood there awkwardly, like a teenager caught sneaking in past curfew. But he wasn't a boy anymore, and this wasn't an innocent mistake. "I think we should talk," he said. What came next wasn't a confession. It was a coward's version of honesty, vague hints, side glances, and one too many sentences that started with, "It just happened." I didn't need details. His tone, his shame, the way he couldn't look me in the eye, that was enough. And when she walked in a moment later, face pale as porcelain, everything clicked. I had seen enough courtroom dramas to know what betrayal looked like. But nothing prepares you for the real thing. It doesn't come with music or dramatic lighting. It comes with a tightening in your chest, a noise in your ears like static, and a single, echoing thought, "So this is how it ends." But I didn't crumble. I didn't beg. I didn't ask why. I just stared at the two people who had gutted my trust and finally said what had been dying to come out of me for years. "You both deserve each other. And I deserve peace." I turned away and walked to pack a bag, not knowing where I was going, only that I couldn't stay. I didn't slam the door. Not yet. That came later. Instead, I zipped the old leather duffel I hadn't used since our anniversary trip to Vienna. Funny how things carry ghosts. That bag once held gifts and love notes. Now it held nothing but shirts, socks, and the quiet weight of finality. They didn't follow me upstairs. Maybe they were too ashamed. Maybe they were too relieved. Or maybe, and this stung the most, they just didn't care enough. The house was eerily quiet, like it knew something had died inside its walls. And it had. I passed by the wedding photo on the landing. She was glowing in white. I stood proud beside her. Tom was right there too, grinning like the devil in a borrowed tux. I should have taken it off the wall, thrown it, shattered the glass. But I didn't. I wasn't angry like they show in the movies. I was something colder. Something that could burn without flame. Downstairs, I looked them both in the eye for the last time. "You had every chance to be decent," I said, my voice low but steady. "You had years. And all you managed was a cheap, small betrayal." She tried to speak. So did he. I raised a hand, not to hit, never that, but to silence. "Don't. You've already said everything that matters. And everything that doesn't." I walked past them, each step heavier than the last, until the cold brass of the front door met my palm. Then I paused, looked back just once, not at their faces, but at the room itself. The memories. The fireplace we never lit anymore. The couch where I used to fall asleep waiting for her to come home. I said nothing else. Just stepped outside. Then the door, that door, slammed shut behind me. And with it, the man they thought they knew was gone. The air outside hit like a slap, sharp, honest, and cold. I stood on the porch for a long moment, not sure if I was breathing or just existing. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the driveway. Shadows, how fitting. My whole life had been full of them, and I had mistaken them for shelter. The car waited, faithful and silent. I unlocked it, threw the bag in the back seat, and slid behind the wheel. My hands gripped the steering wheel tighter than they needed to. I wasn't sure if I was holding on to drive, or holding on not to fall apart. Then it came. A sound behind me. Soft, almost hesitant. Not the crash of a door, not the voice of guilt, not the hurried footsteps of someone chasing redemption. Just a whisper of a presence. I looked in the side mirror. Her. Not her, the woman I'd just left behind, but her younger sister. Anna. The quiet one. The one who always stayed in the background at dinners, who listened more than she spoke. She stood on the porch, arms crossed tightly over her chest, hair tied back like she always wore it when she was thinking too hard. She took a tentative step forward, then stopped. Our eyes met through the glass. And then she said it. "Can I come with you?" 5 words. Not loud. Not dramatic. But they hit harder than anything I'd heard that night. I rolled down the window, more out of instinct than decision. "Why?" She looked down, then back at me. Her voice didn't shake. "Because I've been watching this lie longer than you have. And I'm done pretending to." There was no plea in her voice. No pity. Just clarity. I didn't answer. Not yet. But I unlocked the passenger door. And that, I think, said enough. She closed the door quietly behind her, as if not to wake something fragile. Neither of us spoke at first. The engine hummed beneath us, a low growl waiting for direction, the way I felt inside. Restless. Unmoored. I pulled away from the house without a glance in the mirror. Some places deserve to vanish behind you. For a while, the road was the only voice in the car, tires on gravel, the rhythmic blink of a turn signal, a passing wind that didn't care who we were or what we'd left behind. I didn't ask where she wanted to go. I didn't know where I was going either. Maybe that was the point. Finally, Anna broke the silence, her voice barely above the hum of the dash. "I tried to tell you once," she said. "About them." I didn't look at her. "Not yet." "When?" She hesitated. "Last Christmas. You were putting lights on the roof. I saw her phone. Messages. Pictures." I confronted her. She begged me not to ruin it all. Said she was confused. That it would end soon. And you believed her. "No," she said quickly. "But I believed you still loved her. And I thought if I told you, I'd just break something you weren't ready to let go of." Her voice cracked then, just slightly. "I should have told you anyway." I finally looked at her. Not just glanced, really looked. She wasn't crying. Her jaw was set, her eyes steady. She wasn't looking for forgiveness. She was simply giving me the truth, raw, late, but real. We drove in silence for another mile. "I knew something was wrong," I finally said. "You don't just stop feeling seen. You're erased one glance at a time." She nodded, not as someone who pitied me, but as someone who understood. "You didn't deserve that," she said. And somehow, that sentence, 4 simple words, reached deeper than any apology. She closed the door quietly behind her, as if not to wake something fragile. Neither of us spoke at first. The engine hummed beneath us, a low growl waiting for direction, the way I felt inside. Restless. Unmoored. I pulled away from the house without a glance in the mirror. Some places deserve to vanish behind you. For a while, the road was the only voice in the car, tires on gravel, the rhythmic blink of a turn signal, a passing wind that didn't care who we were or what we'd left behind. I didn't ask where she wanted to go. I didn't know where I was going either. Maybe that was the point. Finally, Anna broke the silence, her voice barely above the hum of the dash. "I tried to tell you once," she said. "About them." I didn't look at her. Not yet. "When?" She hesitated. "Last Christmas. You were putting lights on the roof. I saw her phone. Messages. Pictures." I confronted her. She begged me not to ruin it all. Said she was confused. That it would end soon. And you believed her. "No," she said quickly. "But I believed you still loved her. And I thought if I told you, I'd just break something you weren't ready to let go of." Her voice cracked then, just slightly. "I should have told you anyway." I finally looked at her. Not just glanced, really looked. She wasn't crying. Her jaw was set, her eyes steady. She wasn't looking for forgiveness. She was simply giving me the truth, raw, late, but real. We drove in silence for another mile. "I knew something was wrong," I finally said. "You don't just stop feeling seen. You're erased one glance at a time." She nodded, not as someone who pitied me, but as someone who understood. "You didn't deserve that," she said. And somehow, that sentence, 4 simple words, reached deeper than any apology. We drove past the edge of the city, where the lights thin out and the silence grows heavier. Gas stations became rarer, and the names on road signs stopped meaning anything. It felt right. Like we were driving out of the known world, not to escape, but to breathe. I stopped at an empty roadside diner just before midnight. The kind of place that always smells like burnt coffee and forgotten music. We sat in a booth by the window, and for the first time in hours, we weren't just passengers in the same moment, we were present. Anna stirred her tea slowly, as if time had changed speed for her. "Do you remember when she got sick that winter?" she asked. I nodded. "The flu. She was out for days." "She wasn't sick," Anna said quietly. "She was with him. In Tahoe. I covered for her." The words didn't stab, they sank deep into places I hadn't visited in years. That week, I remembered spoon-feeding soup, folding laundry, sitting at her bedside, thinking I was a good man. A loyal husband. Meanwhile, she was in a hotel bed with the man who once toasted our anniversary. Anna saw my face and spoke gently. "You weren't a fool. You were just good." She didn't know what to do with that. I didn't respond. Not because I disagreed, but because the truth often leaves you speechless, not shattered. "I covered for her a lot," she added. "Too much. I thought protecting her meant protecting the family. But now I wonder how many times I protected a lie, at the cost of a man who deserved better." I looked at her, really looked. There was guilt in her eyes, but more than that, there was resolve. The kind that comes after long silence. The kind that says never again. "I don't want to be a witness anymore," she said. "Not to lies. Not to someone else's story. I want a life where I don't have to flinch when the phone rings." I nodded slowly. "And I want to finally be someone I can live with, not just someone others leaned on while they betrayed me." Outside, the neon lights buzzed weakly. Half of the sign burned out. "Dine 2 to 7" it read. I smiled bitterly. Even the signs were tired of pretending. We didn't rush to leave the diner. There was something oddly sacred about sitting across from someone who saw the same wreckage, but didn't look away. We didn't fill the silence with small talk. We let it stretch, breathe, settle around us like an old coat, worn but warm. Eventually, we stepped back into the night, the cold air hitting harder now. Maybe it wasn't colder. Maybe I was just more aware of everything. She paused by the car, her hand on the door, but didn't get in. Instead, she turned to me. "I always knew she'd hurt you," she said. "Not because she meant to. Just because she didn't know what to do with something real." That stayed with me. Something real. I thought back through the years. Birthdays, anniversaries, mornings in bed, nights on the couch, holidays that felt like routines. At what point did I stop being a husband and become a placeholder? A man who held the walls up while someone else made their home inside them. I kept hoping she'd change, I admitted. That she'd wake up one day and remember what we promised each other. But love isn't a seed you plant once. You have to keep watering it. I think I was the only one still out there in the rain. She didn't interrupt. She just listened, and I didn't realize how much I needed that until now. I leaned against the car. "You know, I never thought I'd be the guy who left. I thought I was the one who stayed. Through storms. Through disappointment. Through years of wondering if I was the problem." "You weren't," she said. "But staying too long in a burning house doesn't make you brave. It makes you ash." That line, it hit something raw. I turned my head, blinked against the wind, and for the first time that night I let it show. Not a sob, not a breakdown, just a single tear I didn't wipe away. She reached for my hand. No romance. No confusion. Just presence. "Where do we go now?" she asked softly. I looked out at the empty road ahead. "Somewhere we're not just surviving." And in that moment I realized, it wasn't about revenge. It wasn't even about closure. It was about reclaiming the parts of me I thought had died: dignity, hope, choice. I opened the door for her. Not because she was fragile, but because, for the first time in a long while, I felt like a man again. We drove through the night. No destination, no music, just the rhythm of the road and two people sitting in the aftershock of truth. Every mile felt like shedding old skin, though not without pain. I thought grief would scream louder. Instead, it whispered, showing me all the small things I hadn't let myself feel. At a rest stop just past dawn, I pulled over. The horizon was bleeding gold across the sky, and for the first time in a long while, I noticed the beauty in something that asked nothing from me. No expectations. No lies. Just a sunrise doing what it was born to do, rise. I stepped out of the car, letting the morning wrap around me like something I hadn't earned but desperately needed. Anna followed quietly, arms wrapped around herself, not from cold but from the weight of everything she'd left behind too. I keep wondering, she said, if I stayed quiet for so long because I was afraid of being alone. I nodded. We all do things out of fear. But staying in the wrong place, that's the loneliest kind of alone. She looked at me then, really looked. Not as a brother-in-law. Not as a man fresh from betrayal. But as someone standing on the edge of something unspoken. I don't want to be someone's secret keeper anymore, she said. I want to be where truth is welcome. Even when it's hard. I exhaled slowly. Then maybe we start there. Not with plans. Not with promises. Just with truth. She looked out over the fields stretching beyond the rest stop, wild, untouched, free. You ever think, she asked, that some things in life burn down just so we're finally forced to step into the clearing? I thought about that. The metaphor of it. The truth in it. Yeah, I said. And maybe what the fire didn't take is who we really are. We stood there a little longer, two silhouettes in a world that hadn't asked for explanations. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel like I had to justify existing. I just was. And that was enough. By late morning, the world had fully woken. People passed us on the highway, families, truckers, travelers with destinations printed neatly on paper. We had none. No GPS voice telling us to turn around. And for once, that felt right. Anna had fallen asleep against the window, her breathing calm, her body finally at rest, like someone who'd been holding tension for years without realizing it. I glanced at her briefly, then back to the road. I should have felt empty. After all, I'd left behind a life I'd spent decades building, a house, a marriage, a friendship, a version of myself I'd outgrown. But instead of emptiness, I felt something quieter, deeper. Peace. Not the kind you earn with revenge. Not the kind you buy with explanations or apologies. Just peace. The kind that comes when you've told the truth, looked it in the eye, and still chosen to move forward. I thought of all the versions of me I had tried to be, the provider, the fixer, the forgiver. Roles I wore like armor. But armor gets heavy when no one's worth protecting anymore. I didn't know what would come next, not for me, not for Anna. Maybe we'd part ways. Maybe we wouldn't. But I knew this much, whatever came next would be chosen, not inherited. And I wouldn't lose myself in someone else's story again. I reached for the radio, turned the dial until I found something soft. Some instrumental piece I didn't recognize. It filled the car like sunlight warming a cold floor. Anna stirred, eyes still closed, and murmured, "Where are we?" I didn't say a city. Or a highway. Or a name. I said simply, "Past the worst of it." And I meant it. Then I drove on, not back, not around, but through. Because sometimes, the bravest thing a man can do is not stay and fix what broke, but leave, with dignity, and choose something real, even if it starts with nothing but open road. Drop your thoughts in the comments, I read them all. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share to help this video reach more viewers. See you in the next one.